Parshas Ve'era is replete with some of the most amazing miracles that we find in the Passover Seder. You want blood? You want frogs? Look no further than Ve'era. And the question is, why did these miracles happen then, and why don't we find any miracles now? To answer this question, we have to go all the way back to the creation of the world. Our tradition is that God created the world in 10 statements. Why 10? Why couldn't he have created it in 1? And the answer is that when it comes to 10, that's when godliness descended upon the world. For example, the idea of a minyan, davening in a quorum. You could have 8 men over bar mitzvah who are praying together. That's called 8 individuals. 9 individuals. 10, that's called a minyan. What happens at 10? What's this magic? The answer is God's presence starts to come into the minyan. So therefore, why don't we find miracles in today's day and age? It's very simple. You see, God created the world in 10 statements, and he said, I'm here, my presence is everywhere. And then people said, you're great, and your sun is great. You're great, and the moon is great. And then they said, well, the sun is great, and the moon is great, and everything under the sun is great. And they started to forget about God. By the time the Jews entered Egypt, the neighborhood and the whole country, and in fact the whole world, was steeped in idolatry. God says, well, this isn't exactly the plan that I wanted. So what he does, he says, I've got to do an autocorrect. What's the autocorrect? I started with 10. I'm going to reinstitute my strength with 10. So he brings 10 plagues upon Egypt. It was absolutely miraculous, to the extent that at the end, not only the sorcerers, but even Pharaoh scratching his head and saying, this could only be an almighty being that I've never worshipped and I've never connected to. So what happened was God started the world with 10 statements. The world forgot about him. He reinstituted his dominion with the 10 plagues, and finally, so we shouldn't come to forget him, he gave us the 10 commandments. So why don't we find miracles anymore? The answer is, look, we remember the 10 commandments. Look at Charlton Heston. Everyone knows the 10 commandments. We're connected to it. We understand, even if you'd be a Buddhist or someone who's involved in Hinduism all the way out east or even all the way out west, wherever you would be, you know there's something called monotheism. Because at that point, once God gave us the plagues, he said, I've shown myself again, don't forget me moving forward. The reality is, if you want to look for a miracle, you really could find them. I'm sure you've studied the DNA helix. You understand how miraculous our body is. You want to look at the beautiful systems of the world that are in place. Form follows function, and the functionality is seamless. The way everything is so set up, from the macro to the micro. If you want to find a miracle, you could find it. But the fact of the matter is, from the time that God gave us the plagues, and the time that he gave us the 10 commandments, he said, I've revealed myself one more time. Moving forward, you no longer need those big manifestations, because I've now re-identified myself through society, and if you look hard enough, you can find